If you had asked how my life was going, I probably would have said, not bad. Considering I married a woman who sleeps with her boss, of course, back then I didn't know. She was sleeping with her boss. I had suspicions, late nights, new perfume. One day, at a party, her boss came up to me. He strolled over, grinning like he just won the lottery. He clinked his glass against mine, leaned in, and with the swagger of a man who didn't know what boundaries meant, said, "Congratulations, Ben. You're going to be a father. I knocked up your wife. Now I want to be very clear about something." I didn't respond right away. Not because I was stunned, though I was, but because I honestly thought I misheard him. I even looked at Rachel, expecting her to say it was a joke. Maybe an awkward one, sure, but a joke. Instead, she just gave me that smug little smirk I'd started seeing more often over the last 6 months, and she said, "Yeah, and you won't even divorce me. Because we have a no-fault dissolution of marriage." The thing about betrayal, it doesn't hit you like a slap. It seeps in slow and steady, like a leak in the foundation. You didn't notice until the house starts to tilt. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, nodded once, then I stepped away. I went out to the valet stand, not to leave, but to retrieve something from the glove box of my truck. When I came back and the music had changed to something slow, and jazzy people were still laughing, sipping wine, oblivious. I spotted Rachel still standing by the bar, with Greg sipping her drink like she hadn't just dropped a bomb on our marriage. Then they saw me. Rachel's smile disappeared. She locked eyes with me, and her hand went out her mouth. "Ben," she said, voice cracking, "don't do this, please. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and like the video, so you don't miss tomorrow's video." She didn't know what I had in my hand, not yet. But she knew the look on my face, the look of a man who's got nothing left to lose. And a plan that doesn't involve mercy. The moment I decided, I wasn't going to be the man people walked over anymore. I wasn't going to be the nice guy who ate betrayal with a forced smile. I was done playing fair. A moment later, I unleashed what I like to call thermonuclear vengeance. Let me be clear, no one survived was metaphorical. I'm not a criminal, just a man with a very particular set of skills. A long memory and a subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud. Turns out when you're underestimated long enough, people stop watching their backs. I stood in the middle of that ballroom, calm as a surgeon holding what everyone thought was a weapon. And I guess in a way it was an envelope, plain unassuming thick. The kind that says important legal documents on TV. I dropped it on the bar next to Rachel, slid it toward her, and said only one word, "Read." She hesitated. Greg leaned over, still puffed up on testosterone and vodka crayon, trying to play the alpha role. "What the hell is this?" Then I looked him dead in the eye. "Your resignation letter," he snorted. "You're not serious." Rachel unfolded the papers with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the first page, and all the color drained from her face. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed, then opened again. "Fish out of water. What is this?" she whispered. "Proof," I said, "of the affair, of the misuse of company resources, of the little games you've both been playing while I've been footing the bills and doing your laundry." Greg's face turned a shade of red I usually only see on construction warning signs. "How did you?" I cut him off. "You really shouldn't let your side piece keep a shared iCloud account with her husband. Rookie move." A few people gasped. Someone dropped a glass. The band had stopped playing entirely. Even the bartender had stopped polishing his glasses. Yeah, I had the receipts, emails, texts, a few hotel receipts tucked in for good measure. Turns out the corporate card Rachel accidentally used for those out-of-town conferences was still in my name. Oops, I gave Rachel a look I hadn't worn in years. The look from before we got married, when I was building my own real estate business from scratch. The version of me who didn't accept defeat or excuses, or betrayal disguised as emotional growth. I already filed, I told her, the dissolution paperwork, the financial disclosures, everything. Her hand shot out like she wanted to stop me. "Ben, wait." "I'm not waiting anymore." Her boss, her baby daddy, started to look genuinely worried. "You're bluffing. This is all just..." I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. On cue, a video began playing on the ballroom's mounted projectors. I'd uploaded it remotely to the AV system. Took me 2 hours and a bribe to the event tech guy. Worth every penny. It started with a screen recording, a slideshow of text messages between them. Then hotel check-ins, Rachel in lingerie, Greg shirtless and grinning like a frat boy. All time-stamped, all damning. I stood in front of the screen while the video played behind me. Greg scrambled to shut it off, too late. "Consider this my resignation," I said, voice level. "From this marriage, from this charade, from ever being someone's doormat again." I left my wedding ring on the bar next to her cocktail. When I left that ballroom, I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I didn't throw a single punch, which frankly was impressive given the circumstances. I walked out into the cold night, hands in my pockets, heart surprisingly steady. Rachel had tried to gut me in public. Instead, she gave me the green light to do what I'd quietly prepared for months. About 6 months before the gala, I noticed Rachel had changed her phone lock code. No big deal, then she changed her laptop password, still no alarms. But when she added a second bank account I hadn't known about, that's when my brain shifted into a different gear. I made copies of everything I could access, emails, receipts, digital backups. I installed a tracker app on the tablet she forgot to log out of. I studied her movements, her tone, the shift in her wardrobe from marketing professional to romantic thriller side character. Rachel always saw me as the steady one, the quiet one, the guy who wore flannel and knew how to fix a garbage disposal. Dependable, predictable. She didn't see the man who built a business from nothing, who grew up watching his dad leave for work at 4 a.m. and come home with calloused hands and quiet dignity. She didn't see that I pay attention, and when someone crosses me, I don't yell, I move. So, yeah, by the time she and Greg decided to build their little soap opera behind my back, I had already mapped the exits. The divorce filing done, I'd pre-filed 2 weeks before the gala with a top-notch attorney who specializes in asset protection and reputational damage. The prenup, ironclad, she hadn't read it carefully when we signed it. Most don't, but I had a clause in there about infidelity nullifying any spousal support. I didn't plan for it, I just never liked surprises, and the cherry on top, I own the house. The title was always in my name. It was a flip I did back when the market was hot. I just never got around to changing it. Now, blessing in disguise. She called around noon. I let it go to voicemail.
Her voice was the same one she used when she wanted something.
Soft, half apologetic, loaded with just enough faux vulnerability to draw sympathy. "Ben, I know last night was a shock. We didn't mean for it to happen like that. Can we just talk?" Then Greg called, left a voicemail too. This one wasn't soft. He was mad, said I blindsided him. Imagine that, a guy who slept with another man's wife and bragged about it, felt blindsided. That day, I moved all our shared funds into an escrow account pending court approval. I contacted her company's ethics department anonymously and dropped the documentation. Greg, by the way, was technically her supervisor. That's a policy violation where I come from. 2 days later, HR reached out to him for a formal review. And just like that, cracks started forming under their golden tower. The morning after Rachel's HR meeting, Greg's HR meeting, she showed up at the house. Banged on the door, like the SWAT team was inside. I opened it just enough to let my words out. "You don't live here anymore." Her mascara was already running. That caught me off guard. Rachel never cried unless someone was watching. But today, her audience had closed the curtain. "Ben, please. They're suspending Greg, pending investigation."
"You don't know what this is doing to me." I almost laughed.
"To you, seems like a fair trade. You gave him a baby, I gave him a probation review." She flinched. I didn't enjoy it. Not really, but there was a grim sort of justice in it. Then came the line I'd been waiting for. "We made a mistake." I crossed my arms, leaned against the doorframe. Which part? The affair, the public announcement, or the assumption I'd roll over like a golden retriever?
"You're acting like I meant to hurt you," she said.
"Rachel," I said quietly, "you planned baby announcements with your boss and a legal strategy against your husband in the same breath. That wasn't a mistake. That was a business plan. See, in our town, there's a kind of social circle that lives on brunches, charity galas, and reputation. Rachel loved that world. Lived for it. It's why she curated her Instagram like a museum exhibit and practiced small talk like it was her second language. So, I made sure the truth found its way to that circle. I never lied. I never even embellished. I just released the facts. Her pregnancy announcement leaked alongside the name of the father, complete with work emails and timestamps. The digital trail did the rest. One day, her posts were full of hearts and congratulations. By the end of the week, her social media was on private. Greg's profile was wiped, and the HR department at her company issued a bland leadership restructuring memo. I hadn't been to Montana since college. Found a quiet cabin near Flathead Lake. Brought a stack of books, my fishing gear, and a bottle of bourbon I'd been saving since my 35th. I didn't think about Rachel or Greg. I thought about clean air, cold water, and what it meant to rebuild from the ground up, something I knew a thing or two about. But the past has a way of following you, even into the woods. On the third night, I got a call from her sister. Ben, I know you don't want to hear from anyone in our family right now, but turns out Rachel had moved in with their parents temporarily. Her dad, who used to lecture me about being man enough to support her ambitions, was now suspiciously quiet on family calls. Her mother, who once told Rachel she'd married down, had apparently stopped hosting her bridge club since the scandal, and Greg. He'd been given a formal leave of absence. Rumor was he might be taking an extended sabbatical. Translation: the board was waiting for the dust to settle before replacing him quietly. Rachel's sister sounded conflicted. Not surprised, just disappointed. She admitted she saw the cracks long ago. She said Rachel had always chased the next shiny thing and assumed someone else would clean up the mess. Then she said, "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of this." By the second week in Montana, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, I hadn't forgiven her. That would require some biblical-level enlightenment I don't claim to have. But the rage that had fueled me back in that ballroom, it burned hot, fast, and then it was gone. What was left felt more like clarity. One morning, while I was chopping, like some flannel-wrapped cliché, I heard a truck pull up the gravel drive. I set the axe down and wiped my hands, squinting as the dust settled. Out stepped an old friend I hadn't seen since college, Eli Mason. He looked just like I remembered. Scruffy, broad-shouldered, and wearing a permanent smirk like he knew the punchline to every joke. He gave a casual wave. "Well, damn," he said, "you went full off-grid lumberjack." "Eli," I blinked. "What are you doing here?" "Got your postcard," he said, holding it up. Thought it was a cry for help disguised as a vacation update. I had sent him one. Yeah, joking about trading Wi-Fi for firewood. Never thought he'd show. Turns out, Eli had been following my little soap opera from afar. He worked in corporate law down in Denver, but we'd stayed in loose touch. Holiday texts, old guy memes, the usual. When he heard what happened, he didn't call. He drove. We spent that evening on the porch, two guys in flannel, sipping bourbon and talking like no time had passed. "I got to say," he said between sips, "you really detonated that one." "What was it? Public exposure? HR sabotage? A data trail?" "Everything but the theme music," I said. He grinned. "Proud of you, man. Always knew you had a dark side." "I don't," I said. "I just stopped pretending not to see what was right in front of me." Eli stayed for a few days. He cooked better than I did, played chess like a psychopath, and reminded me of who I used to be before the whole corporate power couple thing took over. One night, as we sat by the fire, he said something that stuck with me. "You know what your problem was? You kept trying to build a life with someone who was busy building a ladder out of you. I built the house, the foundation, the structure. But Rachel had been measuring windows for a penthouse somewhere else. The marriage wasn't just broken. It had been built with different blueprints altogether." I came back to town 3 weeks later. Clean-shaven, clearer head. The house was still. The legal stuff was progressing. Rachel had gone quiet. No calls, no emails, no drive-abys, just silence. But then, something unexpected happened. I got a call from Greg's wife. Didn't even know he had won. Her name was Mara, and her voice was steady, cold, efficient. "I think we should talk," she said in person. We met at a quiet cafe across town. She wore business attire like armor and had the kind of face that said she'd been through fire and come out sharper. "I just want you to know," she began, You're not the only one cleaning up the mess your ex and my soon-to-be ex made. We swapped war stories. She had a folder with printouts, timelines, even screenshots of overlapping hotel bookings. Turns out Greg had been double-dipping. Rachel wasn't his first, just his latest.
He's charming, she said.
And slippery, but not as smart as he thinks. Yeah, I muttered, that's kind of the theme. She paused, then slid a folder across the table. I don't know what you're planning next, but if you want leverage, here's everything I've got. I looked at it, then at her. Why help me? Because I know what it's like to be made into someone's stepping stone, she said.
I've got kids to protect.
You've got a future to rebuild. This helps both of us. I'd always thought rebuilding would feel like climbing out of a crater, but it felt more like clearing out a room you never realized had been full of junk. Quiet, steady, a little lonely, sure, but the good kind, the kind that lets you think. I went back to work full-time. Real estate had been good to me before the whole marriage sideshow, and it welcomed me back without asking too many questions. Deals were moving again. Listings were up, and I was sharper, more focused. Turns out betrayal has a strange side effect. It makes your vision crystal clear. A month after I got back from Montana, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, not a voicemail, an honest-to-God envelope with my name handwritten on it. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of black coffee and stared at it for a solid 10 minutes before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No fluff, just the facts. She'd moved out of her parents' place, staying with a friend. Said she didn't want the house, didn't want the car. She wanted the divorce to go through quietly. No fight. At the bottom, she wrote, I made my choices. You made yours. I'm sorry it ended this way. I don't expect forgiveness, just finality. I read it twice, then once more. No excuses, no manipulations, just a quiet admission. And honestly, I respected that more than anything she'd said in the last year. I didn't reply. Some endings don't need punctuation. A week later, I was meeting a contractor at one of the new properties when I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Tara Kelly, high school friend, used to be the type who turned heads without trying. Sharp wit, wore sarcasm like lipstick. She ran a small architecture firm now, and as it happened, she was bidding on the same development project I was. Ben Garrison, she said, laughing. I thought you'd moved to Alaska or something. Close, I said, Montana. Temporary exile. She looked me over, tilted her head. You look different. Lighter, maybe. Got divorced, I said plainly. So that explains the lack of soul-crushing tension lines around your eyes. I grinned. She was still the same, bold, no filter. She'd always been easy to talk to, even back when we were dumb teenagers trying to survive geometry. We caught up over coffee. Turned out she'd gone through a divorce too, a couple of years earlier. No cheating, just a slow unraveling. We shared. Stories swapped, lessons laughed, more than I expected. She didn't ask for the details, and I didn't offer them. She just got it. You know, she said as we walked back to our cars, people always talk about starting over like it's this sad, lonely thing, but honestly, it's kind of refreshing, like gutting a house to the studs. I said, clears out the rot. Exactly. She gave me her card. Let me know if you ever want help designing something new. Didn't mean I was jumping into anything. I wasn't chasing some rebound story arc, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like the road ahead wasn't just mine. It was open. Back at home, I opened the folder Mara, the ex-Mrs. Gregg, had given me. Bank transfers, shell accounts, a few receipts tied to business expenses that weren't exactly business. It wasn't revenge I felt while flipping through those pages. It was relief knowing I wasn't crazy, that what I'd seen, what I'd felt, it was all real. I took it to my lawyer. I gave a polite nod. Rachel, we hadn't seen each other in person since the gala. She hesitated. You look good. Thanks. You look like someone buying groceries. She smiled a little. It didn't reach her eyes. I heard the settlement's almost finalized. Yep, I said, picking up a bag of flour. Few signatures and it's done. She shifted the basket in her arms. I just wanted to say thank you for not dragging it out. I looked at her for a moment. Really looked. This wasn't the woman who smirked at me in a ballroom. This wasn't the woman who weaponized a legal clause and waved her betrayal like a parade flag. This was someone who looked tired, worn down, human. I didn't drag it out, I said, because there wasn't anything worth dragging. Then, to my surprise, she said it was real. You know, us, at least at first. I didn't respond.
Didn't need to.
Some things don't need answers, just acknowledgments. I walked past her and kept shopping. Didn't look back.
Didn't need to.
That night, I got a text from Tara, the architect I'd reconnected with. Coffee, no pressure. Just caffeine and sarcasm. I sat with it for a minute. Then I replied, sure, I could use